They talking about them Titans. That's right, girl. Talking about them Titans. Late ill care at One Youngster, holding down, bringing the street geek and nerd soul. And guess what? I am back again with my boy, Hannibal Tabu. What's up, man?
Plotting to rule the world, same as we do every night.
Man, every single night, man. Yo, it's good to talk to you, man. It's been a while, so what are you working on currently?
Right now, I'm working on prose novellas for Aspen Comics. That's one of the main projects I'm working on. I'm also working on a lengthy story for a company called Wonderman Comics, which is going to be if memory serves, a 7-book series, which is in the middle of the character sketches for that right now and getting that ready to go. And the hope is to release that in 2017.
Cool, man. Dang. You putting in that work. That's what's up.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, today, y'all, if y'all didn't know, after, clicking and reading the title, now you know. Today, we're going to be looking back at probably my favorite, or one of my favorite DC storylines, which is the Teen Titans, or the new Teen Titans, which is called the Judas Contract.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I guess before I give my introduction to it, like how I got into it, how did you learn of, I guess, the Judas Contract? Like, were you reading at that time? Was that like something you read later on after being into other books, or?
It was something I read later on because at the time I was big into the Legion. The Legion was really my focal point through most of the 80s for DC Comics because I was about power, and there were no bigger collection of powers than the Legion of Superheroes at the time. With 2 Superman class heroes and everybody else and their mama all on board. So I heard people talking about the Judas Contract, but I hadn't gotten up on it at that point. I got into Titans a little bit later and had to backtrack my way to the Judas Contract. And it was interesting because I reread it this week. It was interesting looking at it with eyes, with older, more experienced eyes, and seeing some of the things in a way that I wouldn't have noticed earlier.
Okay. Well, when I was back at that time, like whenever I read into DC, I was always into kind of, I guess, Justice League. I wasn't ever really into any, I guess, solo superheroes as far as DC was concerned. I mean, I liked them, but I liked them all together, I guess. And I've always been, even I think the last book that I was like consistently buying was Batman Superman or whatever, back in like 2004 or something like that.
Ew, back when it was terrible?
Like I remember Michael Turner did a couple covers, McGinnis did a couple of the interiors, like the Public Enemies and stuff like that, like those storylines. That's like the very last time I read it, and I didn't think it was terrible. I enjoyed seeing both of those guys together.
You're much more forgiving than I am.
Yeah, man. Like I'll be honest, I just love seeing them together. You know what I'm saying? Working together, which is something that I always thought was dope. But I actually got introduced to the Judas Contract through the animated series of Teen Titans. Not Teen Titans Go, not that stuff. I'm glad that there's people that love it, watch it all you want. I'm just not, it's not for me. So I watched it on, I guess when the character's name was called Slade, and you had Beast Boy and all of that stuff, but it just blew me away. And I remember talking about it like, man, this season of Teen Titans is really on point. And a friend of mine who's like, like an older brother was like, well, you need to read the book. And I was like, oh, word? They, they adapted this? Because, sometimes they make stuff up for the animated series. Sometimes they adapt stuff. It's kind of like an ebb and flow. So I was like, cool. And he said, yeah, I got it. I'll bring it. I think he brought it to work the next day or something like that. I read it, and I'll be honest, I honestly love both versions. Like, the animated series, I love that version. I love the, it's not really the graphic novel, but he had the collected edition at the time. So I just sort of consider it a graphic novel because I came on super late. But I really, really enjoyed it, man. Like, it's good. It's, you got your betrayal, you got your love, you got your breakup of a team and all kind. It's dope.
There's a lot of really things because rereading it, as I noted, it's really a structural masterpiece. When you look at the writing that Marv Wolfman did, the way that the story is structured, and the way that narrative strokes tie together from Ravager to Terminator. We should probably say spoilers like crazy.
Is it really spoilers? Like,
I respect
when did this
privacy.
come out? Like 80.
I'm putting it out there. But anyway, a lot of the continuity ties that to the outsiders, other series going on in DC at the time, pop culture issues. Cyborg was definitely popping off a lot of that. So there was a lot of great things. And for me, I really loved the amazing artistic moments. There were a lot of these real close-ups on just eyes by George Perez to show intensity, like dun, dun, like they really got in there.
Yeah.
Dick Grayson had an amazing character arc of development here through putting down the Robin costume and finding his way into a new identity for himself. And acknowledging the influence that Superman had on his life, which was at the time a bit of a surprise, given he had hung around him for so long, but you really got to see the effect that Superman had on his life in that regard. At the time, in the 80s, this is such a hugely complex story. I mean, from the scenarios with the congressional hearings and candidates and scandal and the court of public opinion, which is a long way from the punching and simplicity of comics at the time. And Brother Blood was there just as a level boss. He wasn't even the big man.
No, not at all. He was, because I remember, because I don't think Brother Blood was tied into the animated series. So when I was reading it, I was like, wow, okay, well, all right, well, what's he doing here?
There was a lot of what surprised me though, that it was that, of course, being older, I'm starting to nitpick things. What the heck happened to Kid Flash? Because at one point, I'm like, okay, so you're gonna just step away because you're gonna do this. And from a narrative standpoint, had he stayed with the team, the entire second half of the book would be different.
You're right.
Because the entire, he would have, his presence and his power set would have changed the entire last half conflict, and would have been way, way, way harder for any of this to happen. I was really interested in some of the more complex things, like there are almost homoerotic undertones to Slade's relationship with Wintergreen. And nobody decided to talk about the fact that Slade, a grown man, was sleeping with a 16-year-old Tara.
Yeah, that was
that's real R. Kelly.
Yeah, that was real. Like, but then the thing is, the way she carries herself it's weird. The way she carries herself, you'd be like, hold up. You're like, hold up. All right, so she's 16, or like.
They say it multiple times very clearly that she's 16.
But it's like just the way she carries herself. You're like, hold up. So is she lying, or is she really 16? Because she, like, when she's around Deathstroke or Slade or whatever, like, it's like, so hold up, is she 16, or is she a grown woman? Because she's definitely carrying herself like, when she's away from the team, like, homegirl is ruthless, man.
That was actually one of my concerns with her, because she was ruthless, true, but unfortunately she also had this kind of almost bad Jimmy Cagney movie gun mall banter that she had with Slade. And I'm like, okay, so in retrospect, I'm reading that like, you didn't know a lot of teenagers. Okay, I see what happened there.
Man, come on, you gotta let that slide.
Well, here's the thing, do I? Because I mean, even when Slade puts the what's name, Garfield, gets knocked out by the what do you call the drugs and the envelope glue, and he walks in, Vanglorious Dolt, and I'm like, really, Vanglorious Dolt? That's what we're going. I mean, it was definitely in many ways a product of its times, because it had a lot of the 1970s bombast and really over the top stuff. But underneath this, kind of corny skin was a really richly complex and meaty plot that, as I got done, I was like, I kind of just want to go read dialogue the whole thing. I mean, because the story I don't have to touch. I wouldn't have to rearrange anything, but I mean, like, at some point, Dick Grayson says, my love, like M''LOV. I'm like, what do you do? That's not.
It's like, is he like here in Europe or something? Like, There is.
I'm like, are they always after your Lucky Charms? What's happening?
It's just now the thing that threw me off when I first read it is like how much older they're portrayed, like in the book, because of course coming from the animated series, they're portrayed as probably like, you know, like 13, 14, something like that. Even though it was dope, I think LeSean Thomas was working on some stuff at the time, and it really blew me away. But then when you get in the book, they're portrayed as probably like 16, 17. So they're much older-ish, and Cyborg definitely, you know, it's got a 70s, 80s flow with his suit. Like I was like, yo.
He made two Michael Jackson references that, you know, I was like,
yeah.
I was into it because I'm into Michael Jackson. But yeah, it was definitely an artifact of its time. And in some ways that dates it. But like I said, from a purely structural standpoint, you could strip out that dialogue, put in new dialogue, and not have to touch the story itself, the narrative, the panels, especially George Perez, who is a magician, a masterpiece. There was so much richness in that structure there that I really, I overall I could get past the kind of moments, but yeah, there were a number of them.
It's just dope on all levels because, and then of course in the book, since you're not animating it, in the book you can have a couple more characters because like you don't have like, you know, Kid Flash in the animated series. I believe in this, you know, animated series didn't have, I guess, what they would call Wonder Girl.
No.
In it. So you get a couple extra characters, and I've always loved like the team vibe. And one thing that I thought was really dope, especially going on with the Brother Blood stuff, was you got to see Raven kind of interact a little more in the team, because in the animated series, Raven is more standoffish. So I did like that because she just seemed like more of the team in the actual comic book. But it just, man, like just rereading it, this is definitely, it's still one of my favorites.
Well, now that you say that out loud, I'm thinking one of the reasons, because in this book I noticed that a lot of times Wonder Girl and Cyborg were playing the same role, which is like in a D&D game, they were playing the tank.
Yeah.
They were the heavy that took the hits, and you know, but in an animated series you don't have time for any duplication, so they stripped that down to just Cyborg doing it, which honestly may have been a good choice. I can't say one way or another, but I did notice that duplication because we kept hearing all this stuff about Wonder Girl's wedding and yada yada yada. But so they were definitely they were more like, you know, 19 and 20 in this, truth be told, because she's getting married.
Right.
So I don't believe a lot of those threads, because what they used to do, they used to use something called Levitt's, called in story structure. Yeah. You have an A story line going on, and you have a B storyline right beneath it, and a C bubbling way below it. The wedding was a C storyline, and it didn't take its time to percolate up. One thing that I think people lose with the TPB collection of Judas Contract is that you don't see the introduction of Tara to the group. You don't see how she came to, you know, come into this role of almost trusted. Okay, now we're really trusting you. It kind of jumped in the middle of the story in that regard. So I really, for the full effect, you have to go back and find the actual issues and really get into that. But like I said, I really enjoy the skill at which the story is put together, even given what I believe are the limitations of the 1980s in that regard.
Yeah, and I'll second that, because I remember, you know, when he gave me the collection, it does start off like when you first get it, like when it opens up like at, I guess, what they call Crossroads of Chapter 1, and it's just like, oh, they're out in like some snow mountains beating up some dudes, you know. And it's just like, you know, it's like, you know, everybody's fighting, you know, it opens like almost on like this splash page that's like amazing. Like, these are the splash pages that I used to look at when I was younger that like made me want to draw. Like, and I remember I used to look at stuff like this, stuff from like, even like stuff like this, stuff like Eric Larson would do, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And just be like, how can you draw that well? It's impossible. like I used to just be like younger and be like, how can this be drawn? But like, you're right. When you come into this, they already know her.
Yeah.
In the animated series, that's why I wasn't thrown off, because in the animated series, they like met her and they went through the not trusting her part. And then this doesn't really go through the aftermath as much. Yeah, it does to a certain degree, but I believe in the animated series, she ends up trying to come back.
Yes. It's a softer ending in the animated series.
Yeah. In the animated series, she tries to come back, and I think they try to trust her, but I think it just ends up being like, nah. You know what I'm saying? It just ends up being like, nah, it's just best that you just leave, kind of thing.
Yeah, because they weren't going to kill it. In the animated series at that age, killing somebody would have been a faux pas. The network wouldn't have signed off on it.
Yeah, so they still went through the part where she kind of like, I guess, collapses everything on her and like ends up, I guess, like, buried by the rocks and stuff to kill her and Slade or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to say she ends up coming back, because I remember Beast Boy like seeing flashes of her, but I can't remember. I think she did come back.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was trying to get my hands on the animated series too, to try to be like, okay, what's different? Do I still like the difference? Do I still like them both? Because the animated series blew me away. I was like, man, this is some top quality writing on like sort of a like older boys show.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's when my boy J Dub was like, yo, man, you need to read the book.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, there's a book? Word? So.
Oh, you kids these days.
Because, I mean, when you think about it, a lot of people's knowledge of comic books comes from, it doesn't go from comics to animated. Now it goes from animated to comics.
Animated
like,
has a bigger audience.
I like this. Yeah, it's like, oh, I like this cartoon. Wow, there's more in the comic book? Oh, well, let me see. It's not really like comics first these days. That's why, and I've even seen it to another degree, not involved with Teen Titans, but I know there's a lot of people that are like, Green Lantern is black.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, for how long was JL on? Like 5-6 years, something like that. Mm-hmm. However long it was on, for 6 years, depending on your formative years, say if Justice League started when you were, say, 9 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So, so for your, like, I guess getting into comic book knowledge kind of years, just, Green Lantern was black. So, or this guy was called Beast Boy, not the Changeling.
Yes.
Or, because like when I got in there and I was like, why are they calling him the Changeling? That's a dumb name. But I'm pretty sure people that read the comics were like, Beast Boy is a dumb name.
Beast Boy was an earlier name because that was from when he was with the Doom Patrol. That also, because you also see more here where with the Dayton Mansion and so on and so forth, that's a continuity piece when he talks about, then there was the time that I saved the entire Doom Patrol from blah blah blah. Doom Patrol, I believe, barely is mentioned in the animated series, if at all. Whereas
they do come in like a later season.
Yeah.
They do come in a later season. I remember they kind of have a back and forth about, his allegiance with either the Teen Titans or them, because they have this mission. They want him to come on with them and stuff, which is actually kind of cool too. When they fight, what is his name? It's the brain inside the little robot joint, and I can't think of his name. Oh man, it's the brain inside of that little robot roly thing, and he's always chilling with Gorilla Grodd.
You mean Monsieur Mallah in the brain? Is that what you mean?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's another talking, because Monsieur Mallah is the ape with a beret.
Oh, no, not him. I'm talking about like the actual like robot. I'm trying to think of what they called him, but I cannot remember his name. It escapes me now. And it's funny, when we get off this podcast, I'm like, oh, that was his name. That's how it always is. It's like, oh yeah, that was his name.
You're funny. The comments will not be forgiving with you.
Nah, they're gonna be like, actually, his name is blah blah blah. He was first introduced, and it's like, dude, look, I love comics, but there's no way you can read them all, so I don't even act like I did. So it's like, Unless you're like a historian and you get paid to just like sit and read, maybe. But then
I've got a guy like that.
Oh man, but like one of the things that I guess the thing about this storyline that really just got me, it got me at the right time, you know, like when I read it, because you got this young team that's just like, on one hand, you know, their hearts are kind of breaking, you know, because you got, you know, Beast Boy or Changeling, his heart's kind of breaking. Then you got these people that are trying to convince him, she's done.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. And then you got Robin going through his changes. You got Robin's thing. Robin has a personal thing with Slade.
Yep.
You know, like, you got like, man, this story is just good.
Yeah.
Oh, also the like straight up like pimp smacking. All right, Slade pimp smacks Tara like out the blue.
Yeah.
Well, not really out the blue.
You mean when Jericho took him over?
Oh, yeah. I forgot. Yeah. So, like, dude straight pimp smacks her, and it's just, yo, man, it's just funny. But that's another person that's not in the anime series now I think about. Yeah, Jericho's not in it.
Yep.
Dag.
There's a whole understory with Slade's family. Adelaide, like his wife's not in it. I always mispronounce her name, but yeah, none of those are in the anime. The anime series had to pare the story down to be able to fit.
Yeah, because even though that story still took like almost like, I guess, sort of like a whole season, like that joint could have easily been a lot longer.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, there was a lot that you had to sacrifice to get it animated.
Yeah. And plus animation, you know what I'm saying, that joint is not you know, inexpensive at all. So
yeah, no, they have to do it a long time in advance.
Yeah. But like, just the way it's done, the family drama, the drama with Robin with himself, Robin with Starfire, Robin with Slade, then you got Beast Boy with Tara with Slade, which is still kind of weird because like I remember
super weird
because I remember being like, okay, she's 16, but she's acting like she's older. Is she pretending to be 16 or is she really 16? If she's really 16, don't get me wrong.
This is not 21 Jump Street.
It's like, this
is not 21 Jump Street, fam. It's not.
And like, don't get me wrong. I know 16-year-olds that act way older and like they try to be older than they are. So it's not like, women like her or boys like her don't exist. It's just that, it just kind of throws you because they are in a very adult relationship. You know what I'm saying?
That doesn't make it any less statutory. I'm just saying.
Yeah. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it's like it's very weird to see her because she completely switches when she's with the team. Like, she goes to Slade, she's like smoking, kind of flaunting herself around. Then she goes to the team and she's like the sweet girl. You got that drama. Then you got the team always getting strapped up and tied up to stuff.
Yeah, it was a little fetishy now that you say it that way, yeah.
Yeah, because, all right, their Brother Blood straps them to like some bones or something or teeth or something. Mm-hmm. Then they get strapped up again, to like these, I don't know, like machines or whatever, and they're like all together still. So I'm like, yo, like y'all be strapping like the team stuff all the time. And it's,
I used to have a similar beef with Sean Connery's James Bond because people used to always tell me Sean Connery was so great. He literally got beat up or tied up like in almost every movie. And I was like, the only reason why he would win is because he was literally just tough. He would just get up and he'd be like, oh yeah, you can punch me in the face, I'm gonna take a hit and get up and punch you. Whereas I was more of a Roger Moore dude. He was like, yeah, I'm gonna just sleep with your woman while you thinking it's gonna happen, and then I'm gonna shoot you.
Yeah. Oh man, but yeah, it's crazy. Like, you go back, you got this storyline, and well, let me step back. As out of 10, what would you give this story? Like, if you were to rate it?
Out of 10, I would give this one a very forgiving 8. But on my normal standards, somewhere like a high 7.
All right, cool. I'm gonna put it up a little higher at like an 8.5. This joint just still gets me, man. Like I read it, I went through it again, and I was just like, man, this is good. Like, of course, you got the old uniforms. Yeah. It's just like, man, you got these old outfits and stuff, and I think you're right. It probably could use switch up the dialogue. Probably even keep switch up the dialogue, update that, and maybe I guess we could keep the suits, but because Wonder Girl's suit is fine. Beast Boy's suit is fine.
Yeah, it's a very good
Beast
design.
Boy's suit is fine. I don't know. I've always liked the easy, I guess, or I guess because I'm an artist, it's simpler to draw. But just kind of or Captain Marvel's suit. It's kind of like a
Which Captain Marvel?
Oh, sorry, the Chris Anker's joint, the new joint. Not the onesie, but you know what I mean. Like it's like the bodysuit, the adult onesie, and then just like a nice belt,
Accessorized, I see.
It's a nice little belt, and a mushroom jacket, and then you get but you know what I'm saying? Like her outfit is fine. Even when Nightwing kind of comes back, his stuff is, it's not the Nightwing that I love. He got the collar and stuff.
It was Disco Nightwing.
Yeah, that. But I even can kind of deal with that. But I do agree, some of the 80s comic books were very wordy.
There's
something
a lot of heavy captioning here.
Yeah, very wordy. And I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. It's just, I don't know. It just seems, I used to read, of course I read comics in the 80s, and I guess I didn't notice it then, but now reading comics now, I go back and I'm like, yo, there's actually a lot of words on this page.
I'm of two minds about that, because on one hand, Judas Contract was selling, millions of copies an issue. So on one hand, it's hard to argue with in that regard.
Yeah.
On the other hand, did Marv not trust George? I mean, because it's George freaking Perez. I mean, the art was going to do heavy lifting. Did he not believe George could pull that off? And because I write a lot of comics, I run into the same thing. I think of the Stan Lee rule: never have more than 15 words in a word balloon. Never have more than so many words on a page. And I try to stick to that as best as I can, because Stan's sold a lot of comics. But
yeah, and he knows a little something.
Yeah, I'm just saying. He may have done a thing or two, but there are often narrative requirements. And again, this is a super complex story. The congressional hearing alone was a super complicated element in a book that at the time was being read by teenagers and maybe some older kids,
Yeah.
So that's a lot to put in there, and you need to, kind of work that around. There was no internet back then. There was no Google, so people weren't as savvy in terms of information as they are right now. So there was a certain desire for info dumping on them, and also I'm curious. I want to look now and see who is the editor, because some editors were more heavy-handed in terms of like a Julius Schwartz, who was like, yo, we need to heavily front load this with this kind of information, yada yada. I'm sorry, Wolfman and Perez co-edited it.
Oh, okay.
Themselves.
Wow.
So they ran the table on this.
Man.
So which a lot of people didn't have the freedom to do.
That's very
These
rare.
two, they could do that. Yeah.
You got to be, the man to kind of do that.
And they definitely had that right, from according to this 1983. Yeah, they definitely had that right.
Man, well, y'all, that's it. This joint is dope. There's really, I'm trying to think if there's something like we really missed, but we talked about Robin and his beef, especially their one-on-one, in the office or whatever. You got, man, and matter of fact, let's talk about that scene. That's a dope scene, because the way they open up at least the way it goes in the collected edition, you got Robin just kicking it.
Yeah.
Dude's just chilling. Nothing.
There's a lot of down periods for Robin in this book. Yeah.
Yeah. But I like that, because outside of like the animated series where you don't really have a lot of time to kind of like show that stuff, you do get to see the heroes kind of being themselves sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you get to see their life away from the costume.
Yes. And dude's chilling, and bam, Slade just jumps in, and they're like at it. And you know, once again, you have like these amazing scenes. Even with like just the like kind of like the old school art, it just still comes together very well. And you know, I mean, you know, boy takes a beating, dude has to, you know, run away. But I mean, it's, you know, it's just this amazing action sequence, kind of out of the blue, something that you don't expect, that kind of like jump starts, I guess what you could say is sort of like the third act, sort of the it's 4 books, I guess you could say, so sort of like the third act. But you know, this joint is just good all the way through. Like, and I didn't expect to like it so many years later, and that's why I was looking for the animated series too, because I was like, man, I need to find and see if I still like the animated series as well. But yeah, like this joint is just on point, man. Like they really came through.
I had to go back and read the Great Darkness saga because I was worried it wouldn't hold up, and it does. I mean, it still has, even as noted, I mean, because it was trying to look at future 1,000 years ahead from a modern standpoint in the 80s, and that some of that, like, oh wow, you didn't know this was going to happen with computers, blah blah blah. But from a story structure, and that's the same thing here. From an underlying story structure standpoint, these things stand the test of time. They still work. That's how you can then take a story that was written in the 80s with these things and adapt it to the modern day. You know, I don't believe the animated series got into the whole Congress thing, which was too deep for it. But you know, I like, if you told me that they were going to have a Legion Great Darkness adaptation, I wouldn't even question it. I'll be like, yes, that's going to work. That's definitely going to, because the underlying, the engine of the car is so strong. Yeah. It's so strong.
And see, I'm gonna have to get up on that because I never really was ever into Legion, so I'm gonna have to peep that out and see what's up. That's you know, that's pretty dope. Like I'm always, especially for team stuff, I don't know, I've always been more into team books than into kind of like I guess solo offerings and things of that nature. Like I've always been into like Justice League, you know, the X-Men or the Avengers, or I like it better when they team up.
When you're a fan in the 80s, there was no, in my opinion, there was no better team book than Legion, because there were so many characters. The characters were so well developed, and there were so many possible things. So it's like every time you think something's gonna, it's like, oh, we got a guy who's got a power for that. Let me throw him at it. It's like, oh crap, where'd he come from? You know, and it's the fact that I think the size of the book and its complexity, and the fact that Paul Levitz was able to write it in such an organized fashion, he was super meticulously organized, I think it was really a benefit in that regard. So yeah, if you like the Titans, you spend some time, I think you're gonna love the Legion.
All right, cool. Now, speaking of something that's sort of Titans adjacent, before we get out of here, we got a little bit of speculation / rumor / sort of news.
You're not gonna say the Netflix thing, are you? That's not what we're going on.
Yes, we gotta go there. I figure we might as well end up on a little bit of speculation, a little bit of news, a little rumor. Now, I was actually speaking with somebody at Warner Brothers this week who was talking about how should I say, it's definitely not a done deal, and you know, the whole the comment that I got was paraphrased, basically, they're talking to the wrong person, but it's not a bad idea. That's pretty much the paraphrase of what I got. Like, so I don't think, you know, Warner Brothers is expressly adverse to doing it, or DC is, you know, against doing it, but I do think this is something that's kind of been, I guess, spurned on by a couple errant comments here and there. But outside of the speculation, do you think it could work? Do you think it's a good idea?
Do I think that people can make money by putting stuff on TV? Yeah, that's always possible. But with you're blowing smoke. There's nothing here. This is not a story. Oh, something almost happened. That's not news. That's not how any of this works.
Yeah. Well, it's like, I mean, you know how it is when people start running it, when comic book resources / film, when people start running this stuff, like you almost have to talk about it.
No, you don't.
You know
no, you don't. That sort of talking made Donald Trump happen. No, you don't.
Oh, man.
That's not news. That's not how journalism works.
Word. I feel you. All right, so I'll back off. I'll just say this. Since it's been on Netflix, I've rewatched it from front to back twice. I really did enjoy it. I do think it's a property that could have went a long time. It had some dope art, it had some dope animation, had some dope writing. I thought it was really good. I don't know why Cartoon Network kept moving it around like they did. I feel they did something different, similar with Star Wars when they had that on the channel as well. But if they were to bring it to Netflix, the only thing is, I don't know. Well, I mean, you got Voltron, and Voltron came out well,
really well.
So I guess they could get it done. You know what I'm saying? I think it could be up to the same quality. The only thing is, I figure the teams that were working on the stuff have far since moved on, but not to say that you can't get new guys to follow the same same guidelines and style guide or whatever, or even freshen it up with the way they.
I'm just saying, if you want Black Beetle back, Kevin Grievous would pick up the phone immediately and get right back in there and do, that Black Beetle character again, easily. Yeah,
man, that was dope. Like, that was extremely dope. They really held it down.
Mm-hmm.
Like, man, it's dope. It's Young Justice was kind of like the original Teen Titans animated series. It was just, they had a level of fun. They had a little bit of comedy in there. They even had this dope episode where I want to say it was like Captain Cold or somebody, or like, like, I don't know, Captain Boomerang or something, like robs a bank like right outside of where like Wonder Girl and like
they were having Icon, what's his name, Rocket was having this thing.
They were like eating lunch or something like that. Yeah. And they robbed a bank like right across the street. They were like, dude. It was like bad timing, bro.
Yeah.
Like they were just like hanging out and eating, and they were just like, nah, just go in and put the cuffs on yourself. Just don't eat. Go in and just put the money back in there. Just give it up. Because it's like, are you serious? Like, did you not see us? Did nobody see us just over here kicking it?
It was another series where they were able to work in a lot of complexity, and in the same way that the Teen Titans had to morph into Teen Titans Go, because complexity doesn't sell toys. For all our fanboy ranting and critical lauding, we're watching it in a way that doesn't make enough profit for the studio. It doesn't move merchandise. It doesn't profit in the way that a cartoon, especially in this market, needs to generate profit. That's why, I mean, one of my favorite cartoons ever was Visionaries, but those toys were crap and nobody bought them, and therefore,
Well, I remember.
Yeah, I had to take it back like that.
I remember when they first got rid of Young Justice, and they were like, everybody, all across the world was like, no, why is this happening? Blah blah blah, and LeSean Thomas was like, yo, y'all don't watch the show, y'all watch it illegally on like Kiss Cartoon or something like that. So like, they're not getting the ratings. Then y'all aren't going out and buying the lunch boxes and the book bags and the toys and the whatever. So y'all aren't doing that.
Let's have a mild correction. When you say everybody in the world, you mean like 25 people on the internet. Because everybody in the world, if they were watching it, the ratings would have shown up. That was not people think that the loud vocal contingent on the internet matters, and statistically, in terms of sales, especially in terms of comics, animation, and toy sales, statistically, it does not.
Yeah. So what I mean, in hyperbole, what I meant was like, a bunch of DC fans went mad and made their madness and discontent known online. And, dude made a good point. Like, yo, y'all are ripping the show. It's not like y'all are watching it like on Hulu where it's tracked, or y'all aren't watching it on Cartoon Network's site where it's tracked, or you're not watching it on live when it comes on where it's tracked. You're watching it on like a whole bunch of like like torrent sites or whatever, and then you get mad because I was thinking, well, they're not making a lot of toy money, but what about ratings? Maybe they're making some ad money. And it's like, well, nobody's watching the show because everybody's torrenting it or whatever.
And as we learned from Hulu recently, even the ads won't keep it free. Hulu has shut down its free model completely, which was a big hit for me because 90% of the television I watched was on Hulu for free. But these are the current market economics, and we can't expect complex shows like this to work in. The only way they can work is if they come out as a niche cast thing, a Stranger Things, a Luke Cage. Luke Cage, the ratings that they're going to get on that would not stand up to most even cable channels thing because it's so black. It's so black. But
yeah, it does look like it's about to be. It looks like it's going to be like extremely black.
I mean, all the episodes are named after Gangstar songs. When Cheryl had the chance to film a barbershop scene in the village, he was like, no, we're going to move this to Harlem. They're like, but it's going to cost more. I didn't ask you that.
Wow.
And those kind of cost issues can only be done at niche casting. Animation is hard to niche cast. Voltron is a very specific thing, and it's a long tail property that they know will be able to play for a long, 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 long time.
Yeah.
Is Young Justice that strong? Maybe, maybe not. That kind of maybe doesn't get things greenlit.
Yeah, you're right, because you are dealing with a lot of characters that are definitely dope, but like they dealt with in their first episode are looked at as like sidekicks. Like this is the sidekick show. You know what I'm saying? So can it work? Maybe, maybe not. But then they did pepper in, Batman every now and then and stuff like that, because he was kind of like giving them their like mission objectives and all that. So it's, I agree. I think the Netflix thing can work. I think it's super far from ever happening. Because like I said, no one has said, and I want people to listen to this part. No one on any of these stories is from DC. Well, they were quoting a guy who worked on the show, but nobody is working at DC or Warner Brothers that said confirmed. Once you confirmed is the word that you want to hear. You know what I'm saying? On a story like this.
Here's the way I look at it, because if you're looking at an entertainment story about something that people want to happen, is it posted on Variety? Is it posted on Deadline? Is it posted on The Hollywood Reporter?
Yeah.
Is it posted on a trade publication? If it's posted on comicbook.com, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
If it's posted on Comic Book Resources, where I work and where I have a great deal of respect, there's two types of coverage there. There's hard news and there's not so hard news. What I do is not necessarily hard news. So you have to look into the story itself and say, what's the source of this? Oh, the source is comicbook.com? Then yeah, I should probably, no shade to comicbook.com. Great people. Hope they one day cover some books that aren't from DC or Marvel. But that notwithstanding,
people need to
look at where you're getting the information.
And people have to look at like who made the quote, and like what you want to see is confirmed. Like whenever it's like casting or anything, because I do a lot of movie news, I do a lot of TV news as well, and like people will run, and even kind of like the rap, because the rap and Deadline are kind of like, they're trustworthy, but they also do a lot of kind of like scoop type stuff, and scoops are rarely confirmed because they're scoops. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you need that person that works there to say, hey, yes, this is definitely happening. That's just what you need. But I definitely, If it came out, I'd love it. I'd watch it up. I'm sure a lot of people would, but just had to end on that because
A lot, air quotes.
yeah, a lot of people have to watch it. That's another thing.
Air quotes.
That's another thing, guys. Stop using like your mom, your girlfriends, your boyfriends, your brothers' Netflix account. Get your own account. Get your own account.
I just like to qualify this. Let's not pretend like 1 million people are going to watch this. Let's not even pretend that. Let's not pretend it's going to be watched 1 million times if it's on Netflix, because it's not. It's not that big. It's just not. So let's start there, and let's qualify this a lot, because a lot is not a number.
Well, it would have to be watched, I assume, approximately just as much, if not more, than like Voltron was, because Netflix. I can't remember the guy that made the quote, but they were talking about how it's a big hit. Now, of course, Netflix doesn't really release sort of like what they use to qualify their big hit. Mm-hmm. But I assume, they got to count something. I know they're not just throwing money at projects for fun.
They're not. Because what they're doing in a lot of ways, they're doing a loss leader. Because, for example, Netflix's model is to get people to kill to kill the cable subscription. So, for example, with House of Cards, they slid a Brinks truck full of money up to Kevin Spacey. A scary, scary amount of money, because if you look at the production values on that show, it's scary how good it is. It's better than movie quality.
This show is really good.
Better.
And they actually beat out HBO for the rights for the show.
Well, if I remember the story correctly, because I read the article, they came to the director guy, and they brought him a truck of money, and he called up Kevin Spacey. And he says, "Hey, we're going to do a show on Netflix." He's like, "No, I'm not. I'm over here in England. I run this theater." They're like, "No, we're going to do a show on Netflix." And he's like, "What do you mean? Look outside your house, and there's a truck, and it's full of money." Kevin gets on the phone. "We're doing a show on Netflix."
It's like, oh yeah, I can go to Congress and be mean, no problem.
yeah, he turned it all the way up. So, HBO, Netflix, they're doing these things to establish a brand in the same way that, once upon a time, Thank God It's Thursday established a brand that obliterated everybody else, in the same way that American Idol at one point established a brand that obliterated anybody else who tried to even compete with it. It's the same idea. If they can put, we're Netflix, we've got Stranger Things, we've got House of Cards, we've got Luke Cage. Oh, and by the way, you can catch up on every Transformers episode that ever aired. Oh, and by the way, once you're in there, they aim to keep you. And if you're watching Netflix, you're not watching television.
Yeah, they're kind of like HBO when they first got popping. Mm-hmm. They're like, and the sad thing is, when you look at it, like, I was a friend of mine. We were talking about Blockbuster, and we were talking about Tower Records, and we were talking about
Rest in peace.
All of these older companies that have and I was like, there's no reason Blockbuster couldn't have been Netflix, but people didn't see the power of the internet. You know what I'm saying? There's no reason.
Do you remember how that deal went though? The Blockbuster, Netflix was something like Netflix came to Blockbuster and they're like, "Are you insane? We have all these retail footprints. People will never step away from that."
Yeah.
They chose to ignore the future, and it ran over them like a train.
Yeah, it's sad, man, because, you think in a situation like this, Blockbuster be like, "Oh, of course we're going to do this." You know what I'm saying? We have the reach. We got the market penetration, all that mess.
Well, let's talk.
Nah, man, they got ran over.
Let's talk about our friends in the comic industry then. Let's talk about Diamond after all this time saying, "Oh, we're going to work on a digital thing where you can get a code at a comic book store and download this convoluted foolishness that hasn't even happened," while Comixology is running the digital table.
Yep.
Comixology watched them and said, "Oh, you're a monopoly. You're a monopoly that even the antitrust laws won't come after. So we can do that. We're already Amazon now. We bought in there. We can do that. We can be the monopoly." And Diamond's now caught flat-footed.
Yeah.
Luckily, we're in a decent sales cycle right now, but how long that will last, I can't say.
And also, what is Comixology going to end up? How is that end up going to? Or end up affecting? The stores. How are the stores going to pivot and deal with probably the prevalence and, of course, the gaining popularity of digital comics. You know what I'm saying? And that's, I guess, a deeper conversation for later on, which would be dope. But just, it's interesting about, you know what, matter of fact, we need to get up next time and talk about like all of these companies that were just like, you know what, I don't trust this internet thing. We're smarter than the internet. Like, perfect example.
Or as we call them, dinosaurs.
Or perfect example, Napster. Instead of going after Napster, they could have had, you know, the record industry could have had the first iTunes, but they chose other routes.
They could have.
You know what I'm saying?
They could have.
They could have easily had the
really
first
could've.
iTunes. They could have been like, you know what? We don't like this, but the kids got something.
But that's not how most.
Maybe if we can work out a
businesses
deal.
work. That's not how American businesses work. Their model, and truthfully, Microsoft made the most money doing it, is crush any technological upstart, destroy it in its infancy before it can endanger our current product model. Because we don't want to change how we make money. And that's very, very common.
Yeah, because if we change how we make money, we actually have to figure out how to do it. And we don't want to do the figuring out stage. Because honestly, figuring out stage does cost a lot of money to figure out, okay, how are we going to do this? You know what I'm saying? But, you know, it's now you got iTunes and, you know, people don't buy records like they used to.
Thinking is hard. Yeah, figuring it out is hard, and people are reluctant to believe that, you know, the way things are today won't always be the way things are. But history has taught, you know, business schools try to teach it, history's tried to teach it, and people as Americans just don't seem to learn. Apparently the Western market doesn't seem to learn.
Yeah, man. Well, hey guys, all of y'all jump down in the comments, holla at us, let us know the first time you guys got into Teen Titans, what you thought about the Judas Contract. Is it your favorite Teen Titans storyline, or do you have another one for me to check out? I probably think this is their best one, but I don't know too much about the Titans outside of maybe this storyline and maybe a couple of like errant comic books here or there. Also, before we get out of here, Hannibal, anything you got going on? Your website?
Well, definitely please check out for Project Wildfire Inner Project Torrent, the weekly webcomic at operative.net. It is the first link in the set of squares below the main image, and that is available every week. You can also reach it at tinyurl.com/Project Torrent. One word.
What up? Well, from us to you, we're saying VA, what up? LA, what up? And Memphis, what up?
What up?
RVA, you got my heart. And of course, like, comment, and subscribe. Peace.